in Cambridge, Nebraska. Don wants to talk about what's taking place or what took place over the weekend in Iowa. Don, thanks for being with us.
Well, hey, how's it going, my brother?
It's great to have you with us, Don. We were talking the last block. You may have heard me talking with Steve Malzberg about who are the winners and losers of the Iowa Freedom Forum. Who do you think was the big winner?
Well, to tell you the truth, you might think I'm crazy, but, I think it's Donald Trump.
Really? Tell us why.
He hit it right on the head. I don't know about presidential, but when he says the last guy that tried to get in there, he kind of cowered, bent over and lost.
Now, the last guy, are you talking about Romney?
Yeah, I didn't want to bring his name up.
Oh, you didn't even want to say his name, huh?
Well, it's not that, but, we're not looking for a third time's a charm, and we definitely don't want another Bush. We hear this Common Core. Yeah, we got problems with that, and
Don, for a guy like yourself in Nebraska, now, a guy like Donald Trump, some folks would say, here's a northeastern millionaire, some say billionaire. How could he appeal to somebody like yourself in the heartland of America?
Well, because he talks about jobs and he talks about security. Security is the number one issue right now. We got some old broad swimming around in a bathtub full of cereal like she's bobbing up and down for free cell phones and welfare checks, you know what I mean? And
yeah, well, the White House, those YouTube viewers, they have millions of views, so they wanted to reach that different audience. But I do understand your concern, especially for someone who has tried many times to get an interview with not just this president, but the president of the United States. It's frustrating.
It's turning into a three-ring circus,
All right, well, Don, we're going to have to leave it there. I got another call I want to get to, but we do appreciate your call, and we appreciate you checking out all of Newsmax's news, all our platforms, Newsmax.com and Newsmax TV. Don, thanks for calling in. We're going to turn our attention now to Dave. Dave is calling in from Texas, also wants to talk about the Iowa Freedom Forum. Dave, how are you?
I'm okay, fine.
All right, Dave, tell us, what did you think about Sarah Palin? A lot of heat on Sarah Palin this Monday after her less than perfect performance, her speech there. Your take on Palin, should she stick around, or as some say, should she go?
Well, I think she lost it about 4 years ago. She was instrumental in nominating some people, like in Nevada against Reed six years ago.
Yeah.
She picked that woman, and Tarkanian, the coach's son, was 30 points ahead of Reed, and she picked a woman that nobody even knew, and they ended up 30 points behind, and they never did catch up. And that's been typical of her modus operandi. My question is basically one for you, probably.
Sure.
Why does the media get so enthralled with the Iowa caucus?
That's a great question.
I'm an Iowan, have been for all my life. I'm down in Texas now, but I have just visited my daughter. But the thing is, the caucus is nice. When it started, we thought everything was going to be all right. But then you had people who were nominated like Pat Cannon.
Yeah, well, Dave, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up. We got a hard break coming up here, a commercial break that I can't get around, but I want you to stick around, Dave. We'll pick up the conversation where we're leaving off before we step aside real quickly. Why is the Iowa caucus and the Iowa Freedom Forum so important, even though you don't necessarily need to win any one of those events to move on in the race? We'll take a look at that. We're going to continue our conversation with Dave from Texas. You can call in, too, right after this. And welcome back to the special call-in edition of Newsmax Now. We're featuring some of Newsmax audience members calling in to us. We were leaving our discussion with Dave. We want to give him one more chance to wrap up. We were talking, Dave, about why we think the Iowa caucuses may no longer be relevant to the entire political calendar. Dave, we'll let you finish your point. Go ahead.
Well, basically, the caucus in the last election proved how bad it is when they left out two of the caucus regions, and it allowed Santorum to get the nomination according to the number of votes instead of Romney.
Yeah, it can work one of two ways, Dave, and we'll have to leave it there. We can look at 2008, for example. 2008, Barack Obama soundly defeated Hillary Clinton in Iowa, and then following up that with the victory later on in South Carolina, which really put things to bed, which is what can happen. Also, some folks trying to forego the entire Iowa caucus and move on, which is what John McCain did in 2008. He focused on New Hampshire and then on South Carolina to help him wrap up the race. Very rare. Only Bill Clinton, the only president to lose both the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary, then go on to winning the race, thus the nickname Comeback Kid. Next caller is Al, also joining us from Texas. No surprise, we have a lot of audience members in Texas. Al, great to hear from you.
John, before I make my comment, let me just say to you guys, I think you guys have a wonderful alternative to the other fair and balanced.
Yeah, don't say it. Don't say it. We're happy just to be that other alternative, and Al, we do appreciate you calling. What's your question?
Well, my comment rather is that I'm happy. I'm so pleased to see Scott Walker winning outside of Iowa. And I do think that the Iowa caucuses are important because they are a crossbreed, or rather, they express what the heartland of America is thinking, and that's important. It's important for other Americans to know what people in the heartland out here in the flyover country, as it's called, are thinking, because we represent a real broad spectrum of American. The values that were used to found America with.
That's an excellent point, Al. That's a great point, and that's one of the things that might be lost a little bit as the primary calendar gets so condensed with different states trying to move up to the front of the pack. You do get to hear from these candidates on specific issues that matter to folks in different parts of the country. Very important. Al, we thank you for your call, and we thank you very much for your comment. Also, we're happy to be that alternative you talked about, and please call in if we do this again. We're going to move on to our next caller. Next caller, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Oh, this is Steve from Miami, Oklahoma.
Steve, calling in from Oklahoma. Steve, tell us what you thought about the what took place in Iowa at the Freedom Forum over the weekend.
Well, I didn't actually hear Scott Walker speak. I have great respect for his victories there in Minnesota, and I really think he would make a great candidate. But I actually think Donald Trump.
That's
he's arrogant enough.
Two votes for Donald Trump. We had another caller call in, Steve, earlier saying that he also thought Donald Trump, in his voice, resonated the most from this weekend. Go ahead, though. I didn't mean to cut you off. Please continue.
No, and what I'm trying to say is Donald Trump is he's arrogant enough and independent enough to where I think he would actually stand up and make a difference. And he has experience in business. He has experience in handling foreign people, and this is more what our country needs today than anything.
All right. So a lot of these, traditional GOP consultants would say, wait a minute, Steve, Donald Trump, he's from the Northeast. He doesn't necessarily have a lot of the same opinions as folks in the heartland do, but you're the second caller now. The other caller, Don, called in from Nebraska. Steve, you're calling in from Oklahoma saying that you like Donald Trump. Really, do you think he is a serious contender at this point, or do you think he went to this event kind of hoping just to stir things up a little bit and get his voice out there?
I don't know. You never know about Donald Trump, but I honestly think that if there was a possibility and he could get elected, he would be the person that I think could make the difference in the direction our country is currently heading, because he's arrogant and he's independent and he stands for the American principles, and that's the key.
Now, on social issues, he differs a little bit from a lot of the more conservative candidates. What's your take on that?
Well, I heard his statements about Social Security and all that. I just happen to have faith in his ability, his business understandings, and I think he would reduce the size of government, and that's a key issue for me, and just reverse the trend. It's just what's going on is just terrible.
Yeah, it is. It's concerning to a lot of Americans, and I do think it is very interesting, Steve, to hear your voice and also hear Don, who called in from Cambridge, Massachusetts, talking to us about these economic issues, and I'm sorry, Don calling in from Cambridge, Nebraska. Thank you for correcting me on that. About these economic issues, that's still really what is important. Now, in light of this, Steve, we just recently heard the president talk about everything being great economically. Were you buying what the president had to say during his State of the Union?
Well, you know, he would make a good comedian at this point.
Yeah, so painful. It's almost funny, I guess, is the point there. Steve, thank you very much for calling in. Steve calling in from Oklahoma. We're going to now turn to our next caller, and we do appreciate you guys all calling in right now. We're going to go to Eugene, who's calling in from Ohio. Eugene, go ahead.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Yes, talking about Donald Trump.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Oh God.
Oh, why do you say, oh God?
Oh, he's sure not for me. I voted Democratic all my life until Obama, and then I changed to Republican. And to me, Donald Trump's a businessman, and that's all.
Now,
I don't think our country is ready for him.
Now, do you think, some people say Donald Trump is more concerned about being there for himself, and this is our last question, Eugene, than he is about the entire Republican Party. Is that your take?
I didn't hear you, sir.
Yeah, I think we're having a little problem with the background. But do you think Donald Trump is serious about running for president, or was he there just to raise the awareness about himself?
Tell you the truth about it, with Donald Trump, you never know what is on his mind.
And that's why he is so interesting. Eugene, thank you very much for calling in. Always great to get your take, sir. We appreciate you taking the time to call in. So we've had a range of opinions so far. A couple folks calling in saying they liked what Donald Trump had to say. A lot of the early credit goes to Scott Walker for wooing the crowd in Iowa. But we've had two callers call in and tell us they like what Donald Trump had to say, one against Donald Trump for the president. We'll see what happens. 2016 will be here before we know it. Call in. Here's the number on the screen. 561-369-0081. Please do give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Stand by for this Newsmax Now update.
What we're working to do is to bring together that same coalition of men and women across Iowa, across this country, to say we do not accept losing this country. We will together reignite the miracle of America. We will together bring back that shining city on a hill that is the United States of America.
There you have Senator Ted Cruz from Texas at the Iowa Freedom Forum over the weekend, trying to capture a little Reagan magic there in his speech. We welcome you back to this special call-in episode of Newsmax Now. Of course, we're trying to get your pulse, or take your pulse rather, get the opinion of our viewers and some of the current news stories taking place, and most notably the current GOP presidential race, which I guess more or less has officially started unofficially right now. Again, we'd like to join you have you join us in this conversation. That's what I'm trying to say, something to that effect. 561-369-0081. That is the call-in number, and that's going to bring us to our next caller, Gail, who's calling in from South Carolina. Gail, when we look at these speeches, we heard a lot about the economy, about who could be the better president, maybe, even though they're not going to say that explicitly. But what matters to you most, Gail, in South Carolina right now? What do you want to hear these candidates talk about the most?
Oh, getting our rights back in order.
Getting our rights back in order. The Bill of Rights, are you referring to?
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes,
and
Bill
what right is most out of order right now?
Well, I think the president has gone over his lawlessness, and I think that he's not going with Congress, and I just think he's just totally out of hand.
Yeah, you're talking about his executive actions, I'm sure, his immigration executive action, also some other things that he's done, moves.
And his DOJ.
His Department of Justice.
Yes. I mean, they're just, it's scary. I'm 65 years old, and I'm really scared. I come home at night before dark. It's just, I mean, I'm 65 years old. I shouldn't have, I'll be 66 April. I shouldn't have to worry about.
No, Gail, and and despite what we heard from the president during the State of the Union speech about this new dawn that we're witnessing here economically, the page turning, the shadow no longer over us in terms of the economic crisis, I think there's still a lot of concern from folks like yourself. Gail, thanks for calling in from South Carolina. Our next caller is June. June, go ahead. Jim, I'm sorry. It's Jim, not June.
Oh,
Jim
yes,
calling
I'm
in
here.
from Florida. I apologize, Jim. We'll call you Jim from now on. I promise no more references to June unless we're talking about the month June. Jim, we were talking to Gail from South Carolina about what issue, what topic does she want to hear these GOP potentials for 2016 talk about the most? Jim, you're in Florida. You tell us what issue matters most to you.
Well, I called to say that I felt that Donald Trump would be a very, very good candidate and a very good president. And I think he has been given a bum rap by the media. I've watched some interviews, personal interviews with him lately, and I can say he's a very honorable individual, and he has the strength and the qualities that this country needs, internally, domestically, and internationally.
And what specifically do you think is what is the mainstream media playing up to disparage Mr. Trump when you talk about him being cast in an unfair light?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
What specifically are you referring to when you mention that the mainstream media is targeting Donald Trump and making many folks feel like he's not a legitimate candidate?
No, I think the coverage that he's received in the past doesn't truly demonstrate the individual that he is and the conservative individual that he is. And it has misportrayed him in many ways when you hear the actual story. And hear the truth behind these incidents that have gone on in the past. And I just think that personally he has the strength and the qualities we need in a president, and I think he can turn this country around.
And again, we want to point out here, we've had, let's see, 6 people call into the show so far, 3 of them talking about Donald Trump emerging from this Iowa Freedom Forum as a legitimate person that they want to watch and that they hope runs in 2016. Now, Jim, you mentioned the qualities that Donald Trump has. We know he has a gift for narration at the podium, but what else do you think about him that makes you feel like you would vote for him for president? We've got about 30 seconds.
So you know, I was raised in Iowa, and one of his answers for about raising his children was his rules were no alcohol, no cigarettes, no drugs. And you take a man who starts his children off in the right direction, and that's the way to gauge the wealth of an individual, how they end up, and they've done well.
I agree with you there. Parenting, a very important part of your everyday life, even without your kids. But we appreciate it, Jim from Florida calling in. Also, you can reach us at this number here on the screen. We're coming back. We're taking your call. Hello, I'm John Bachman. Welcome back to this special edition of Newsmax Now, a chance where you can call in and talk to us about whatever you want, really. But mostly today we're talking about the 2016 GOP presidential field. A bunch of familiar faces were in Iowa over the weekend. Here up on the screen right now is the number, how you can reach us. And we'd love to hear from you, 561-369-0081. Again, 561-369-0081. You can reach in and call us, talk to us. We were talking about 2016, a bunch of familiar faces in Iowa over the weekend where all successful presidential campaigns normally begin. People like Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, Arkansas Governor and former talk show host Mike Huckabee, Texas Governor Rick Perry, just a few of the names who are there, possibly running for the White House in 2016. So who won? And who do you think will get the 2016 Republican nomination? As we mentioned, we want to hear from you. We're going to start right now with Jeff, who is calling in from Hawaii. Obviously, Jeff, very early in the process right now, but do you think any of the names that emerge from Iowa will one day be the GOP nominee? Go ahead.
Oh, definitely.
And which one do you think?
Oh, I'm not going to bias it at this point.
Okay.
But I would be focusing on their emphasis, some of it on the near term and some of it on the future, based on the integrity of the family, how the women support their husbands. If their husbands aren't that smart, they should educate them. But never to be an opponent to the husband and the family. Our court system is set up to be predatory, to destroy men from day one. I object to that. I've had some experiences which have been extreme. I've gone up against everyone, including all agencies of the federal government, the state, and the religious people. I've exposed some darn ugly stuff, and that's my battle. I'm winning. So I say, men, hang in there, make the best of what you got, help your wife, and she has the obligation of being your best friend.
Hey, Jeff, that's a little advice I think any married couple can take. A better friendship with your spouse. Thanks for calling in. Next caller, John C. from Alabama. John, we were talking about who do you think, if anybody out of this field of folks we're talking about today, Donald Trump, Scott Walker, Mitt Romney, who wasn't there, Jeb Bush, who do you think at this point right now has the best inside track on becoming the GOP nominee?
Well, I think it's too early to say who has the inside
No, we know
track.
it's too early, John, but we're just still kind of guessing.
And I didn't get to see all of the other than the segments y'all were shown. But I think something that needs to be remembered is the federal government is just a huge corporation. And Donald Trump and Mitt Romney both have that experience, plus Romney, the experience of running the state finances. And I think any Republican candidate would be better than what we've had the last 7 years.
Now, John, you're from Alabama. I'm from Georgia. We know initially during the GOP primary process, guys like Mitt Romney didn't fare too well down in the Deep South. Do you think that's something that Romney has learned from? You say you might support a third Romney candidacy. What's your take?
I believe I would at this point. You stop and look back, Romney was right on a lot of things that he was criticized for, but it has turned out to be that he was right, and Mr. Obama and Miss Hillary and all of those were wrong. But the man has knowledge, he has experience, and like the earlier caller said, I think he's got enough money, but he doesn't have to bow down to anybody.
Now we talked.
I think Romney would make a good candidate.
All right, so the third time might be the charm for Mitt Romney. Now, do you believe that? Are you buying into this narrative that there's a competition among certain wings of the party with about 30 seconds left to go, John? Do you think we're going to see a similar repeat of what we saw in 2012 with this GOP establishment versus the grassroots in 2016?
I don't think so. I think the country's come a long ways as far as being able to see and understand things that they did not understand or couldn't see when Obama ran. I think the great orator he's got to be right, and I think that especially y'all's network is going to catch all of those little flaws. And
well, we'll do what we can, John. We try our best. We do appreciate you calling in. John C. calling in from Alabama, an Alabama man supporting Mitt Romney. I'm telling you, we're getting a lot of varying opinions here. You want to stay tuned. We got more callers coming in, too. You can reach out to us. The number's on the screen. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this. Hello and welcome back to this special edition of Newsmax Now. We're going to give you one more live look. This is Times Square, New York City right now, and the cool thing about checking in at this same shot throughout the course is we can actually kind of tell the snow is accumulating. The last time I think we checked in with this same shot, there was a guy with a snowblower walking right through Times Square, apparently not doing much good there, and even fewer people out there in the streets right now, maybe having some snowball fights and some snow angels and the like. A lot more snow headed to the northeast. Everybody stay safe up there. We're continuing our call-in segments now, and we have our next caller, who is Sharon, and Sharon is calling in from Texas. Sharon, I know Texas got some snow too. Places like Midland, they don't normally see snow. Did you see any of that snow?
No, I'm in North Texas.
All right, well, good. I'm glad you didn't have to deal with that. But you wanted to talk to us about something else. When we were talking about the 2016 GOP potentials, who's your favorite right now?
Yes, sir. You know, it broke my heart in 1964 when I graduated from high school that I couldn't vote for Barry Goldwater. And all my life, you know, I've been along that vein. But, you know, the more I see, the more I read and understand is that there are a lot of good guys out there. Ted Cruz, Governor Perry, you know, Governor Walker. But I think what our country needs, I think we need to walk away from career politicians.
All right, so we got a little bit more time, Sharon. I just wanted to follow up with one quick question. Who do you think right now out of the field reminds you the most, maybe not of looks, but who do you think reminds you the most of a Barry Goldwater?
Probably Governor Perry.
It must be the glasses, right?
Yeah, well, I say I've been in Texas. I grew up in Michigan. I lived in North Carolina, Virginia, Arkansas. I'm 69 years smart, I hope. But, you know, Governor Perry, you know, and Scott Walker to a little bit.
All right, well, I appreciate that, Sharon. Sharon calling in from Texas, North Texas, I should say. Thank you very much, Sharon. We got one more caller we want to get to quickly before we step aside, and that's Bobby J, also calling in to us from Texas. Bobby, you're going to be the last caller. No pressure. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Bobby J calling in from Louisiana. I apologize. You're going to be the last caller. No pressure. Go ahead.
Fine, John. It's all good, man. How's it going, bud?
It's going well. I'm glad to have you with us, Bobby. Go ahead.
Look, I've been wanting to mention for a while that a lot of the language that the Obama administration uses has been kidnapped from the Catholic Church.
Interesting. Tell us what you mean.
Well, more specifically, the social teaching of the church. They use some of the terms, but in a sense, I don't know how to put it another way. Obama's acting like a pimp.
Well,
okay, he's saying, all right, well, look, yeah, oh, I love you, baby, or, you know, or someone trying to take a girl on a date saying, oh, yeah, well, I love you, sure. Well, let's say, for instance, if you would take the term love, you know, how do I say it?
Well, Bobby, let me stop you right there because we are running out of time. But I thank you for your comment. Interesting comparison. President Obama hijacking the language of the Catholic Church. We have one more caller calling into us from Augusta, Georgia. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm calling about the Republican presidential nomination. I just want to know when everybody's going to wake up to the fact that Dr. Ben Carson is one of the top and leading candidates in that race. And it seems like that every time I look at a poll on TV, they don't even mention his name.
Well, sir, Ben Carson, he's been in some of the polling, but he is impressing a lot of folks. David calling into us from Augusta, Georgia. Ben Carson is his choice. And David, we do appreciate you calling. Unfortunately, we're coming up against the clock here. The show has to end, but we're glad we could get David's comments in. We've had a wide range of opinion, very interesting take. And I'm surprised, quite frankly, to hear from a lot of folks in the heartland of America, places like Oklahoma and Nebraska, those folks saying that they like the idea of a Donald Trump presidency. A lot of political consultants out there believe that the northeastern brand of the Republican ideology doesn't really sell well to middle America or even the southern United States. But we also had a caller call in from Alabama saying that he likes a Mitt Romney run a third time around. Time will tell. 2016. It may not have started on the calendar. It started on the political calendar, though. I'm John Bachman. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for calling in. We'll be back.